y'all for tapping into Yocuzpodcast, man. Y'all know who it is, man. It's Cuz, man. What's up? How y'all doing today, man? Thank y'all for tapping into the Yocuzpodcast, man. Y'all already know who it is, man. It's Cuz on the 1 and 2. Y'all know what time it is. Time for the shout-outs. Man, listen, I want to do my shout-outs real fast. Shout out to my new subscribers. Shout out to the YouTube family. And shout out to all the guests that came on the show. That they're going to keep coming on the show to tear the chops up. Thank y'all for tapping in. So, look, this is what I need y'all to do. I need y'all to like, subscribe, drop a comment after this episode. Because y'all done tuned in with Yocuzpodcast. Listen, man, I got something to say. We talking about Uncle Trump. Y'all already know what it is. I ain't going to waste no time. Let's get busy. Let's get busy because Trump is just keep signing papers. Now he got JD signing papers with him now. Y'all already know what it is. JD about to take over in a minute, man. But thank y'all for tapping in the Yocuzpodcast. Let's go.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. This is a big thing that we're doing. It's about fraud, having to do with all the fraud that's taking place in our country. We have two people that are extremely brilliant and just very talented, and they're going to be put in charge. But I'd like to ask Will, if you would, to give a little description of what we're signing, the executive order, and then I'll ask JD to speak.
Yes, sir. As you stated in your State of the Union address, in light of widespread revelations of fraud in federally funded programs in states like Minnesota and California, this executive order in front of you will establish a new task force aimed at rooting out that fraud, returning potentially billions or tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of dollars to the American taxpayer. This task force will be chaired by the Vice President. The Vice Chairman will be the head of the FTC, Andrew Ferguson, who's with us here as well today. But this is going to launch a whole-of-government approach to rooting out the very serious problem of fraud in federally funded programs around the country.
As an example, you've been seeing it, and seeing it pretty big in Minnesota, $19 billion. But that's only for one little aspect of the fraud. It's $19 billion, and California, as they say, is 10 times worse, and other states are 10. And this is not a Republican-Democrat thing. This is wherever it's taking place. It seems that it's usually in blue states. If it's in a red state, we're going there too. But it seems that it's heavily, heavily, heavily Democrat. And what they've done is so sad. When you look at the Minnesota scam, a lot of it has to do with Somalia. Nobody's calling out anybody, but a lot of it has to do, but it's Somalia and plenty of others. And I believe the governor is complicit. I believe Ilhan Omar is complicit. I believe that your attorney general is complicit. And if they are, you're going to hopefully find out about it, and you're going to have to do what you have to do. If we found half of the fraud that's taking place in this country, and I think you have a chance of doing that, we would have much more than a balanced budget. That's the kind of numbers you're talking about. The theft is incredible. And I think JD will make, and Andrew will make a charge later on that local states should handle nursing homes and all of these things that the federal government shouldn't be involved in. It's too big. The federal government should handle military and a couple of other things. But when it comes to nursing homes, you saw where a young gentleman was going around and knocking on doors, and none of the nursing homes existed, none of the nurseries existed. The money that's being paid out, and the federal government pays for it. When you see all these people coming in illegally into our country, many criminals, many drug dealers, murderers, 11,888 murders.
Damn.
And you look at California, and more come in, and yet they never had money, and yet they pay them. You know why they pay them? Because the federal government is charged with paying. We're not paying them anymore, and I said that. So these two really smart guys are going to be, hopefully it's going to be JD's. This will not be like a Kamala, where she was put in charge of the border, and she never went there, JD, right? You promise?
I promise, sir.
Remember, Kamala was put in charge. She was the border czar. She never went to the border. She never called any of the great Border Patrol. The Border Patrol testified. We never spoke to her in 4 years. that was a disaster. But this is different. This is a different group of people. I think maybe before JD, I'll ask Stephen Miller to say a few words too, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, under President Trump's leadership, as we've seen, the illegal flow across the southern border was stopped completely. But what we found since President Trump came into office is that the Democrats have set up a system to funnel hundreds of billions and ultimately trillions of dollars to migrants that are in our country, oftentimes from places like Somalia. So as an example, ICE recently asked a group of illegal immigrants that were in detention whether or not they were receiving Medicaid. Half of them raised their hands and volunteered that they were on Medicaid. Just volunteered that. These aren't the ones who are hiding it, right? They also asked illegal aliens how they paid their medical bills, and they said that if they don't have Medicaid, they go to hospitals, they get free care there, and they bill it to the taxpayers. So they aren't paying for any of their own health care in this country. This is one example. And we've seen this over and over and over again. So under President Trump's leadership, and then of course with JD and the head of the FTC, Andrew Ferguson, we're going to see the first ever effort in American history to reclaim the ultimately trillions of dollars that were stolen from taxpayers. I believe, and I know President Trump believes, that when this theft is exposed, we will see that if all of it were stopped, it would be enough to balance the budget. The extraction of wealth from American taxpayers to people who don't belong here is the primary cause
the people
of the
that
national
don't belong
debt.
here.
And this is the first ever effort to shut that down. Thank you, Mr. President.
First ever. And everyone knows they've been cheating for years. It's the first ever. And it's got to be stopped. I mean, it's got to be stopped. Think of it, Somalia is a third world, maybe a fourth world nation. One of the worst, one of the most dangerous. They don't have anything. They don't have councils. They don't have government. They don't have police. They shoot each other all over the place. They come here and they steal $19 billion. That's crazy. And Ilhan Omar, I hope this is part of it, but
that's crazy.
She married her brother, supposedly. I mean, there's a lot of documentation. That means she's here illegally and she's a congresswoman. And I hope you're going to be looking at that, or somebody is, all right?
Trump,
because she's one of the ringleaders here. She's bad news, really bad news. She's so bad for our country.
Yeah.
Anyway, JD, please say a few words.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Mr. President. This is a very important whole of government approach to tackle the fraud problem. And let me just tell one story. One of the things that even before this executive order was signed that we were able to stop under the president's leadership is we saw evidence that in Minneapolis there were Somalis, primarily illegal immigrants, who were defrauding a Medicaid program that was meant to go to autistic children. So they were taking children who were supposed to get benefits, and they were claiming that their kids were actually autistic even though they weren't. And what did this mean? This meant two things. Number one, you had a lot of people getting rich off of the fraud while American citizens got poor. And the second thing that it meant is that you had autistic kids in Minneapolis, in suburban Minneapolis, who weren't getting benefits they needed because Somali fraudsters were literally stealing out of their pocket. It's got to stop. And unfortunately, that kind of fraud is one example of probably hundreds just within the state of Minneapolis. And then it's repeated and replayed all over the United States of America. When we first started talking about this problem, the president made it very clear he wanted us to take the fraud problem seriously because nobody had until he was president. We started to figure out one big hole that existed is that the agencies of the government weren't actually talking to each other. So Treasury would have evidence of financial fraud, but wasn't talking to the Department of Justice about it. Health and Human Services had evidence of Medicaid fraud, but wasn't talking to the Department of Treasury about it. So what this executive order does is force the entire apparatus of the federal government to do two things. Stop the fraud in the American taxpayer and make sure that the benefits that ought by right go to American citizens go to American citizens and not to fraudsters. Andrew Ferguson will be the vice chair. He's going to do a great job. If you're curious what's the difference between the vice chair and the vice chair is going to do all the work and I'm going to take all the credit. Andrew.
Yeah, look, I mean, millions and millions of Americans pay into these programs every day, and they expect to get something out of it. And this fraud is just siphoning money that millions of Americans pay to fund their hospitals, to fund their daycare centers, into completely fake businesses. It isn't just unfair to all of us as taxpayers who pay for all this. It's particularly unfair to the Americans who need this the most and watch this money leave their hospitals hospital, leave their school system, and go out to fraud. And that is why this effort is so important. And I think we've just begun really looking at this, but I think that one of the things we're going to find is that in a lot of these agencies, the previous administration was pretty lax about existing anti-fraud controls, and we're going to expose that too.
That's crazy.
I would take the word pretty out.
Great. They said
change it.
they
with
was signing people in
unbelievably lax.
like their kids were slow
they
and
weren't-
wasn't even slow.
Not
They
even
were spending
lax.
money.
Lax isn't good enough word.
That's crazy.
The previous administration was fraudulent, okay, and I think that's what you're going to find also. And you know, we worked so hard, like most favored nations drug prices. For years, people have wanted. We paid the highest drug prices anywhere in the world by far, by 5 times, 6 times, 10 times, more than London would be paying in New York, more than any city in Europe was paying than our cities. We would have a pill that would sell for $10 in Munich, in Germany, would sell for $10, and in New York it would be $130 or whatever. And we worked
Damn,
so
for
hard.
one pill, Mo.
And we pulled it off. It's called Most Favored Nations. So now we went from by far the most expensive drugs anywhere in the world, prescription drugs,
That's crazy.
to the least expensive. And I had to get all the nations to agree, and I don't want to bore you with how I did it, but I did it. Everyone said it was impossible to do, including the drug companies. And we did it. And we worked so hard on it. And we're going to save so much money for the people. Your drug prices are going to be dropping at levels never
the people.
by 50, 60, 70, 80% in some
Don't
cases.
they
But
say for the people?
you work so hard,
Don't
and then
fall
you
for that
see them
shit,
stealing
dog.
$19 billion. It's like in one pocket, out the other. And I think Andrew and JD, I think they have maybe one of the most important jobs. Maybe it could be one of the most important things that we're signing because I really believe that they have an opportunity to do something so good for our country. You know, people talk about balancing budgets. You can't balance a budget when people are stealing $19 billion and
Damn.
nobody's ever heard of anything like it.
Damn.
We had, I guess, in the same state, you went autism, where 4 or 5 years ago they spent $1 million, and now it's almost $400 million
That's
in just a few
crazy.
years. Well, autism didn't go up like that, and even the 1 million was probably a fraud. But it went from 1 million to almost 400 million in just a few years. These are crooked people. They basically said everybody in the state had autism. These are crooked, horrible people. And, you know, I was elected on with JD, Make America Great Again. That was and we can't have this stuff happening.
Right.
We have to be respected. And they left. So I'm going to sign this. We'll take some questions, but let me sign this first before I don't forget. Let's see.
That's great.
Before I decide not to. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I don't forget
Bro.
not to, but maybe I'll decide not to. I would decide not to if I didn't think they could do the job. I would decide not to. But that'll be a terrible thing. I think they're going to find numbers, Andrew. I think you're going to find numbers that are far higher than you even think. And you know, Andrew came to us. He said, "Sir, he's read the stories about Minnesota. We know California is many times worse, but Minnesota is terrible. They're all terrible. Those cities are terrible. New York is terrible. What's going on in Chicago, Illinois, with that
Right.
governor is terrible.
Facts.
And
But
the kind of money we're
that's the
talking
reason
about
why he wanted to come back.
is
So he could
just
do what he do
country
now.
changing. It's country changing money. It's
You hear me?
having a deficit to
JD,
having
the man
a really
who broke
profitable
out. Yes.
country where you can lower your taxes
Yeah,
substantially for people.
facts about that.
And I think you have an opportunity to do it. And I think you two guys are the right guys. If you guys can't do it,
Mhm. Big fact.
we've got a problem. Because nobody else will be able to do it.
Yes, sir.
He's signing that
So
paper.
I'll sign, and then we'll take some nice questions from our wonderful media.
Wonderful media. Bless his heart. Uncle Trump.
Okay.
Good one.
Here you go. Very important. That's a big deal. We've been working on this very long.
No,
See it, right?
bro.
Will?
Yes, sir.
No.
Andrew, do you have a question?
Yes, Mr. President. You said during your State of the Union that this type of fraud, the corruption, is the type of thing that can shred the fabric of a nation. Why do you suppose then that leaders in recent memory haven't looked at the systemic amount of fraud that's
Because
been
they're
taking
crooked.
place? And
Because
how much
they're crooked. They make money, they gain power, they use it for power. Like with the Somalians, they vote in a block, 100%. They make a deal with the Somalians, they all vote because they're on a gravy train. It's money first, power second. A lot of people say power first. No, it's money first,
And then power.
power second. Did you ever see where like Mercedes?
You're right.
People come over from Somalia, they have no money, and now they're buying Mercedes-Benz cars.
No, for real.
Okay.
Facts.
It's more
Right.
cash goes out of the Minnesota airport than any other place in the world or something. We're going to find it. And Minnesota is really bad. The governor's corrupt. The attorney general is totally corrupt. Just like the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James. She's a highly corrupt person. Bragg, the DA, is a corrupt person. They're all corrupt. These are corrupt people. And we got too many of them in our country. And we have to expose them, and we have to catch them. And if these two guys can't, these are high IQ people. I've always liked high IQ. These are high IQ people. If they don't do it, we're going to go a long way, fellas, to find somebody else that's going to. We have no choice. If honestly, and they may not do a good job, if they don't do a good job,
Thank you, sir.
it's possible. If they don't do a good job, the country's sort of in trouble. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. 2 questions for the
And I think they're going to do a great job. Go ahead.
First, Mr. Vice President, Democrats are already calling you the fraud czar. What's your reaction to that title? And then second, given
I like
your
it.
past skepticism of
Dude,
foreign adventurism,
you already know,
are you
Gov, we
moving on
lit. You
board
know that.
with the current war in Iran?
So I like fraud czar. It's certainly what we're going to do. And look, we have to do it. As the president said, this is a problem that has festered in this country
You
for
already
far too
know,
long.
cuz, we
And
lit.
far too few people have actually wanted to do anything about it. That's what makes this administration different, is that we actually tackle the problems the American people have been confronting. So I'm very happy about it. And look, I think that I know what you're trying to do, Phil. You're trying to drive a wedge between members of the administration, between me and the president. What the president said consistently, going back to 2015, and I agreed with him, is that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. We have taken this military action under the president's leadership. I think all of us, whether you're a Democrat or Republican,
JD is the
should
vice
pray
president,
for success
bro.
and pray for the
That's
safety of our
crazy.
troops.
You don't
That's
know,
the approach
bro.
that I've taken. Make
You
it
don't
as
tune into that
successful as possible.
Yocuzpodcast. See, that's what it is.
Past
Go
statements.
sign up for that membership, man, so you can know what's going
What do you
on
mean
on that
there's no hesitation with my
Yocuzpodcast.
past statements?
Given your
You hear me?
skepticism of foreign adventurism, you were
No.
war on terror previously.
Not true.
Well, I think one big difference, Phil, is that we have a smart president, whereas in the past we've had dumb presidents.
We
And I
have a
trust President
smart
Trump to get the
president,
job
and we got
done,
dumb
to do a
president.
good job
Y'all
for
hear
the
this
American
shit?
people and to make sure that the
He
mistakes
is
of the
the
past
fucking
aren't
like
repeated.
Trump.
Absolutely.
Look, JD's been great. But here's the
crazy.
simple thing, and I have, some people, I don't want wars. I want
That's
wars less
crazy.
than almost anybody.
You
Peace
do
through
want
strength.
wars, nigga.
But you know what? I've watched Iran for a long time. I've called them out 20 years ago when I was a civilian that liked watching the world. And they're violent, vicious people. The leadership, violent, vicious people. They killed 32,000 protesters over the last 3 weeks. They
Damn.
put out a memo 2 days ago saying, if you protest, we will shoot you and kill you in the streets.
Damn.
And somebody said, oh, there's not that many protests. Well, first of all, there are bombs going off all over the place. But even if there weren't, who's going to do that? Who's going to do it? They don't have any guns, and the other ones have latest in line machine gun, right?
I know that. I heard that
Every
too.
form of gun you can have. They shoot them right through the middle of the head. They're
Damn.
violent people. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would use it. And sometimes I'll have some of the people that, feel very strongly, like I do about wars. And I say, do you
go
think
them
Iran
hands.
is violent? And do
They
you
go
think
them
the people
hands.
are violent? Yes, leadership. Do you think they should have a nuclear weapon, which is massive power? I don't even want to discuss how powerful because it's depressing. And they said, no, they shouldn't have. Definitely they shouldn't have. I said, and you don't want to fight war? No, we don't want to fight war. So these are naive people that frankly are stupid. if you believe that Iran should have a nuclear weapon, there's something wrong with you, because they would use it within, the only question is within 1 hour if they get it, or 1 day. They will use it, and they will blow up the entire Middle East, not just Israel. They'll start with Israel, but they will blow up. And you got to see that when they unexpectedly started sending missiles to every country within 1,000 miles of them. I mean, they're blowing up countries that were neighbors, not necessarily some friends. They actually were blowing up some friends.
Yes,
they were blowing up the people that handle their accounts.
Yes, he do. Because
they're
he
sending
wants
thousands of missiles into countries that didn't expect to be in the war, because they wanted to take over the Middle East. And if I didn't terminate Barack Hussein Obama's horrible Iran nuclear deal, which I did in my first term, one of the dumbest deals, perhaps the dumbest deal, because of the danger involved. You would have had them have a nuclear weapon 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. They would have used it, blown up the Middle East, and they would have then come after us. And if these gorgeous B-2 bombers, give me that bomber, Andrews. Let me just hug that little sucker. Give me that bomber over there. Thank you. You knew immediately which one. This looks small, but in person it's very big, because it's the only plane capable of carrying a 200,000-pound bomb. So I don't know how they do it. It's very sleek and nice, but it carries a lot of weapons, and there's a lot of bombs. But had I not sent this incredible machine, times numerous others, to hit Iran at midnight with no moon, dead dark, every single bomb was dropped right down the chute that it was supposed to hit. How they do it, who knows? Nobody else can figure. No other country can do it. No other country has our military or even close. And I think we've probably proven that with Venezuela, and now with because we have done a number on Iran. But if I didn't do that,
this nigga stay bragging, boy.
I call it the nuclear dust. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month after that bombing took place, and they would have used it on first Israel and then the Middle East. And you know that because all of those missiles that were launched against their neighbors were set long ago, long before they knew they would be using them this quickly. Had we not done this, you would have had a nuclear war that would have evolved into World War III.
You gotta know what's going on in life.
And more important, this is a war that
you gotta know what's going on in life. This is
life.
life. This is real life shit. What's going on?
We've done a great thing. Right? The people that say it's okay
for
a very sick ideology, a very sick country in terms of its leadership, very good people, great people. But the people that say that,
knowledge is the key.
I think they're actually, they're either evil or they're stupid. So if you believe that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon, they should not have it, then you have to absolutely love what I've done, because in 2 weeks we have decimated them. They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft weapons, they have no leadership. The leadership is gone. But then they set up a new leadership to go and name a new leader, and that leadership is gone. And now they think maybe the sun is gone.
What's going on in life.
They're all gone. My biggest problem is I have no idea who we're talking to, because nobody ever heard of any of these people. They're all dead. But we did a job for the world, not a job for us, for the whole world. We took the worst country in 50 years and maybe longer, from the ideological standpoint, a country that wanted to blow up the world, a country that is sick, and it has a religious fervor. And when you add religion, you know, people don't realize more people died in religious wars than every other war put together. And that's what you would have had here. And it was a terrible thing. I'm very proud of what we did. And I think JD understands better than most. If you give Iran a nuclear weapon, at least a very substantial part of the world would be blown up, and it'll be used almost immediately. Yes.
You already know.
You don't mind if I keep this here, do you? Isn't that a beautiful thing? You know, I used to look at it, and I said, it's a piece of art. How can it be effective?
You're right. Yes.
It's so stealth. Think of it, Peter.
You got to have that
1 in the morning, it
bro.
flies
Knowledge
in,
is powerful.
and they say, sir, they're in Iranian airspace. And I say,
Thank you.
And I'm watching it from the Situation Room with a couple of other very smart people, including some good generals, real generals, not television generals. And
Not worry about the media.
all of a sudden you
the
see
media's
them
focus
dive,
going
they
on
start
in life.
diving.
But what you need to learn in life, bruh.
30,000,
That's what's going
20,000.
on.
Boy, I said, that was a lot. They went down fast to aim it. And they know they're coming, and they're smart, and they never saw them. And they're firing a little bit, but they don't know what they're firing at because they can't see
I
a thing.
believe.
And then you hear the biggest explosions that anybody's ever heard. Those are the biggest bombs. Outside
already
of
know.
nuclear, those are the biggest bombs.
They're talking about
And you say
bombs,
what technology
missiles,
we have. What a great country.
planes.
I built it, largely, I built it
Planes
during my
fly
first
in the
term. I
dark.
built it. I didn't know I'd have to use
Two
it this
missiles out in the
much
dark.
in my second term. But we had an
Brooklyn in the
incompetent
house.
president.
Brooklyn,
We had an
what's up?
incompetent administration. And if that group of people, in any form, whether it's Kamala, him, it doesn't matter, would have had another 4 years, we would have had no country left. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You say you're doing a job for the rest of the world. In your conversations with your counterparts, are they thanking you? What are their conversations like when you talk about this military conflict that's taking place in Iran?
Well, they should be thanking me because many of them get 90%. China, as an example, should be thanking us, but I don't expect to thank you, but they should be thanking us. Japan gets 95%, China 91%. Many of the countries, South Korea gets a tremendous percentage of their oil and therefore their energy from the Straits, and or as they call it, the Strait.
He ain't gonna do that, bruh.
And
He still got 3
they
years,
should be
man. That man ain't going
not only
nowhere.
thanking us, they should
They
be
gonna have to
helping us.
drag him out
What
the
does
White House.
surprise me
You
is that
already
they're
know
not
that.
eager.
They gonna have to drag him.
You know, there are a couple. We'll be announcing some names soon. There are some that really were right up front. I would announce their name now, other than maybe they'd prefer it not being announced for whatever reason. I will say this: it's a lot easier to get people today than it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, no,
2 weeks ago, before we
Thank you.
destroyed before we obliterated the country, before we took out,
We lit.
because they're down
That's
to
why I'm here, brother.
about 8% of their missiles. They're down to a small portion of their drones, and we've demolished many of their factories where they make the missiles.
We
and the
gotta know
drones,
what's
and the rest
going
are all
on in the
following.
world. Got
Our
to know.
military has been amazing. We hit Cork Island, took out every single thing on Cork Island except one thing. We left the pipes, because if we take out the pipes, it takes a long
already
time to
know.
build them. And at some point, something's going to happen that's positive with respect to those pipes. But there are some countries that greatly disappointed me. And I'm the one that got them to pay from 2% to 5% of GDP, NATO. And I get along great with those countries in NATO, but I always said, the problem with NATO is we'll always be there for them, but they'll never be there for us. And when I hear the UK, which was sort of considered the Rolls Royce of allies, right? When you say they were the oldest and they were going to be there, and I say it would be really helpful if you'd send over a couple of ships, and if you have some minesweepers, which they do, be very helpful. And the Prime Minister is a nice man. I think he's a very nice guy.
Yeah,
He
nice
said,
man.
I'd like to ask my team. I said, you don't have to worry about a team. You don't have a team. You're the Prime Minister. You can make a decision. Well, I have to speak to my people. I said, you don't have to speak to anybody. So it's very
You ain't
disappointing.
got to
And
speak
then
to anybody.
after we obliterated them,
Funny, boy.
destroyed their military, their whole thing, and it became a much safer zone, he said, we're going to send over 2 aircraft carriers. I said, I don't want them anymore. I don't want them after we win. I want them before we start. I don't need your aircraft carriers after we've already won. So, those things are very disappointing. And you have to remember,
I'm scared.
we have
I'm one of them.
45,000 troops in Japan. We have 45,000
scared
troops
of
in
the war.
South Korea. We have 45,000, 50,000 troops
Where
in
we gonna run
Germany.
to? We gonna run to it?
We defend all these countries. And then, do you have any minesweepers?
Nigga, they
And they
really
say,
bombing.
well, would it be possible for us not to get involved?
For real.
I've been saying it for a long time. This is the greatest thing to come out of this. We spend trillions and trillions of dollars on NATO to defend other countries. And I always said, but if it ever comes time to defend us, they're not going to be there. Many of them would not be there. And we're going to have to start thinking more wisely in this country. Some have been very good. One or two have been great. I'll tell you who the great ones are at the right time. But there have been some that were right up there, Peter. They were right up there. They wanted to do it so much. Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you. You were talking about Iran a couple times today and what they did after Epic Fury began. You said they hit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait. Nobody expected that. We were shocked. Are you surprised that nobody briefed you ahead of time that that might be their retaliation?
Nobody.
They ain't go nowhere,
No,
bro.
the greatest experts. Nobody
That's
thought they were going to hit.
what
They were, I wouldn't say friendly countries. They were like neutral. They lived with them for years.
All the
Peter, they were going to take over the Middle East. They were going to knock out Israel with their nuclear weapon. But after we knocked out their nuclear potential weapon, they started building missiles, thousands and thousands of missiles. And they were going to do it with missiles while they developed. These are sick people. While they developed nuclear, somehow they were going to start at a different site, because that site was, you saw the site, the mountain. They were going to go into a certain area, which we know exactly where it is, and they were going to do that. And it's incredible what we've done. I tell you, the job we've done. Do you know, if I didn't terminate Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal, you would right now, well, Israel would be gone. It would be incinerated, and probably the Middle East likewise. And remember, they have all of those missiles. And I heard they were sending missiles to UAE. I said, that's strange. You know, UAE is like the banker for Iran. They're like the banker. Qatar, their neighbors, they got along okay. Saudi Arabia. All of a sudden, Kuwait is getting hit. Bahrain is getting, all these countries are getting hit. There was no expert that would say that was going to happen. It's not a question of like, gee, should you have known? And if we did know, big deal. I mean, we have to do what we have to do. But we hit them so hard like nobody's ever been hit. We hit them very hard. And we've extinguished most of their missiles. We've extinguished most of their drones. We've extinguished most of the places where the missiles and the drones are built.
Everything he do, y'all.
We've fully extinguished 2 layers of leadership and probably a third, if you believe some story. So
you believe
we only have
some
one thing,
story.
to have a little choke point, and they've used it very well for years, but it doesn't work. But I think this, if some of these countries that we've been good to for yean, and maybe more important than that, some of these countries that get 90% and 95% of their energy from Hormuz.
Yes,
Strait.
man.
Hormuz,
Tell them to pray
famous,
for us. We in trouble.
wonderful, beautiful place.
We in
You
trouble.
wouldn't want to be necessarily sailing a boat there right now.
I would not.
Okay, you know why?
We're in trouble.
Not because of them, because of us. Because we've taken out their entire navy. We've taken out every one of their drone. They call it a drone layer, a mine layer. There's specific boats that are meant to put mines on. How would you like to have a nation that has 22 boats
hear me.
where their sole
We in
function?
trouble, bro.
They're very different-looking boats. You wouldn't want one for your
We
family.
need to
They're not
stop this
pretty.
war, man.
Their sole function is to lift a mine into the water and drop it a certain number of feet down. But they had 22 of them. We've taken out all of them. But you can probably drop them off other boats. So we don't even know. By the way, we don't know that any mines have even been dropped. But the thought that they would scares people that have billion-dollar ships. Yeah, please.
Thank you, President Trump. I'd like
Thank
to ask the Vice
Please.
President about his plans to go after possible fraud in California and New York. We know, of course, about Minnesota. And President Trump, first could I ask you, you said earlier today that the new Supreme Leader, Gutfeld, maybe you don't know if he's dead or alive. There are a couple interesting reports about him today. There's one report that he just narrowly escaped death in the first airstrikes by stepping out into his garden. There's another report that he actually
You feel me?
despite leading a theocracy that hangs people.
We will, we
How do you
bomb.
determine what's
We
true
did this,
and
we did
to
that.
assess
Man, that
the
shit ain't cool.
Well, so far nobody knows.
crazy.
If
That
you look
shit
at
ain't
his
cool.
father, he used to give talks a lot, talking about death to America. He'd say death to America all the time. When they say death to America, you should believe them, because that's what they would have. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. But they never had the chance. I never gave them the chance to use it. And other presidents should have done. I spoke to one of the former presidents, who I actually like, actually speak to some. I do like
Excuse me.
some people be shocking. And he said, I wish I did what you did. Could have done it. Other presidents, somebody should have done it. 47 years this went on. They call Iran the bully of the Middle East. And you could have never had the Abraham Accords. You could never have had peace in the Middle East. Now you're going to have peace. You could never do it with the dark cloud of a nuclear Iran. But Iran is a shell of itself. It's no longer a bully. It's the one that gets bullied. It's a bully that got beat up. We beat the crap out of them. And they deserve that. You know, when you see a soldier walking down the street without his arms or being helped down the street because he's got no legs, or his face is blown to smithereens with no legs and no arms, those two, no legs, no arms, and a face that got racked. That was done by roadside bombs. That's the favorite weapon of Soleimani, who I killed in my first administration. General Soleimani. Had I not killed him, that was the beginning of their downfall, because had he not gone, it's possible that we would not be this far advanced in destroying Iran, because he was a really good general. He was a vicious, horrible man, but he was a brilliant general. And he was looking to knock out 5 of our military bases at one time. And the man that died with him was his counterpart in Iraq. And they were working together. And they got hit real hard. And if that didn't happen, we would have had a problem. But maybe more importantly than that, he was really the mastermind behind it. And they never found somebody to replace him in terms of the genius. I knocked him out. And that was a big step, knocking him out. But if we didn't get rid of the Obama deal, I terminated it against the wishes of my then Secretary of State. He was no Marco. Against the wishes of a lot of people at the time. You remember that, Peter? A lot of people. Had I not terminated, remember that, Stephen? You remember? They were all going, no, this is not, that deal was a disaster. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. They would have had it 3 years ago,
English, bro.
And it would have been.
Don't understand
it would have been used, I would say, 2 to 3 years ago, and it would have been used in the Middle East. And by the way, after they were finished that, they were coming over here. They never got a chance to do it.
I just want to ask you about something very interesting that you've said twice today. That you talked to another former president about the Iran strikes.
I did.
Was it George W. Bush?
I did.
No,
Was it Bill Clinton?
I don't want to say. I don't want to say. Because
I want to ask you.
a member of a party, they have Trump derangement syndrome, all, but it's somebody that happens to like me, and I like that person who's a smart person. But that person said, I wish I did it. Okay, but I don't want to get into. I don't want to get him into trouble. Maybe, hey, you know what? I think you probably know. You know, it's interesting, and maybe he'd be proud. I could even ask him that. Would you like me to reveal your name to Peter at Fox? Well, at least you have high ratings. Your ratings are through the roof, Peter.
Thank you for noticing.
Congratulations.
Can I ask you a question?
Congratulations.
If Iran, as you said, totally obliterated, got the missiles, got the first 2 rounds of leadership, Air Force gone, Navy gone, can we wrap this war up this week?
Yeah, sure.
He ain't wrapping that war
It'll
up.
be soon.
Right.
And we're going to have a much safer world when it's wrapped up. It'll be wrapped up soon. We're going to have a much safer world. I had an obligation to do this. I didn't want to, I call it an excursion. I didn't want to make this journey. We had the highest stock market in history. We had low gas prices. Everything was good. And I know exactly. I know what, you're going to do it. And people are going to raise the price of oil. That's good. But I know that. But that's a very small thing compared to allowing them to have. You want to see a stock market go down? Start letting them hit you with nukes.
Get off my live with that shit, bro.
I think
Get
I
off my
said it
live
this
with
morning.
that shit, bro.
I think it's a very small price
That
to
gay
pay.
ass shit. Get off my live with
And
that,
frankly,
bro.
I thought it was going to go down much more, if you want to know the truth. I assumed that it was going to go down much more, only because people don't understand to a large, it's a big chess game at a very high level. It's a very high level chess, the highest. And I'm dealing with very smart players. These are smart people. They don't get there You know, when you deal with some of these people, you're dealing with high level intellect, very high IQ people. These are not Jasmine Crockett and her group.
Nigga,
These are
funny
smart
as a
people.
mug.
These are really smart people. And
Not
violent
just-
people,
not
and
Jasmine
vicious people,
Crockett.
and some very nice people.
Funny as ever.
And
mug.
some are very nice but violent. They turn violent.
And it's
But you know what? If I didn't do what I did,
There you go.
we would have been hit. Number one, very important, was the termination of Obama's horrible deal. And number two, this beautiful plane hitting them 8 months ago, whatever it was, and taking out their nuclear capacity. That totally threw them for a loop. If they had that bomb at either time, 5 years ago or 7 months ago, if they had that bomb would have been used almost immediately.
Mr. President, two questions on domestic policy, bringing it close to home. First of all, the Save America Act. What are you expecting this week when this vote takes place in the U.S. Senate? Will the Vice President's vote be
I think it's
necessary?
imperative that it gets done. I'm not sure it is. You know, the Democrats have horrible policy.
Horrible
It's just
policy.
incredible.
Trump was
But they
losing
stick
game.
together. It's the one thing they do.
Good shit, man.
Their Supreme Court
Drab
members
dogs,
stick
bro.
together. Those appointed by a
Crazy,
Democrat
bro.
stick together. If Barack Hussein Obama appoints a member of the Supreme Court, that member never goes against him. And they're proud about it. They say, I don't give a damn if it's good or bad. That man appointed me and I'm never going to let him down. I don't say that's right, wrong. I just say they stick together. Republicans go the opposite way. If Donald Trump appointed me, I'm going to show the world that I can be totally just and I can be independent of Donald Trump. He's not controlling me. And I don't want to control them. I just
not
want to have smart
controlling me.
decisions. They gave us a decision on tariffs the other day. That won't change tariffs. I can do it a different way. I always knew I could do it a different way. This was a little quicker, a little easier, a little better. But they gave it a decision that could cost this
easy,
country
little better.
$500 billion to pay people back. Because now I have to start the tariffs all over again. Very simple. And what happens with the money I've already collected? Why didn't they say, starting from now, go the other way? $500 billion, perhaps. It's so sad. But one thing about the Democrats, they stick
500
together
billion.
like glue. They impeached me twice for absolutely no reason, unanimously. Fortunately, the Republicans stuck together, and it was something. It was pretty wild. But the Democrats have horrible policy, transgender for everybody, open borders, men playing in women's sports. But the one thing they do have is they stick together, no matter how bad the policy. It's embarrassing to watch them try to defend it. And in a way, I say, as a Republican, I say, thank goodness they have bad policy, because you'd never beat them. We have something in there now, the Save America Act. Voter ID with a picture, right? That's a 99% issue. Even among Democrats. You know, Democrats poll at 89% on that. And then they have proof of citizenship. And then they have no mail-in ballots. No mail-in ballots. We have no mail-in. You go to California, they send out like 38 million ballots. Some Democrats got 7, 8 ballots. Republicans are a lot of times calling in, where's my ballot? Where's my ballot? They're lucky to get one. Jimmy Carter, probably the greatest thing he ever did. I thought he was a nice man, not a great president, to put it mildly. How did his attack work out in Iran? Not too good. I think ours is slightly better, wouldn't you say? But Jimmy Carter, the one thing he did after he left with Scoop Jackson and some others, they formed a very elite council, a committee that came out and said very strongly, no mail-in ballots, because if you have, we're the only country in the world that has mail-in ballots like we do. The only country in the whole world. People have tried it. France tried it and they went away. They're now doing paper ballots, watermark paper, which is very hard to cheat. So when you look at what happens with this country, We really have to fix it. That'll be very popular. The other thing we put in there, just as best of, I call it the best of Trump. We have the three things I just said, right? But then I added on no men playing in women's sports, and I added in no transgender surgery, the mutilation of our children. We have no mutilation of our children, no transgender. I think they say that's an 80% issue. I think they're 99% issues, but whether they're 80% or 99%. The problem is we have a couple of Republicans. They shouldn't be allowed. They're horrible people. And they're willing to vote
He
against
bangs that, John.
anything.
They horrible people.
And we have all the Democrats who vote against it. So I think it hurts the Democrats to vote against it, because I'm going to instruct all the Republicans to say that so-and-so that they're running against voted against the saving of our children from transgender mutilation, right? That's pretty unpopular. They want men and women's sports. That's pretty unpopular. They want voter ID, but the Democrats don't. Everybody wants voter ID. Everybody wants proof of citizenship. And most people don't want mail-in voting because they know it's a fraud. Touches too many hands. I mean, the postman gets it, this one gets it, that one. So these are all issues that are in the 90s to 100. I would say some are virtually 100%. And the interesting thing is they're that way not only with the Republicans. I'm not talking about leadership. I'm talking about they're that way also, most importantly, with the people. The people of our country want voter ID. The people of our country want proof of citizenship. And that includes 88%, 89% of Democrats. And I think the Republicans, Eric Schmidt, Rick Scott, Tim Scott, I speak to so many of them, they all want it. I hope John Thune can get it across the line. He's trying. I mean, he told me this morning, I spoke to him, he's trying. I think it'll be a very, very bad thing for our country if they don't. We're just asking for basic things. Think of it. You can't have voter ID. Do you know in California, if you ask a person to show their identification, they have the right to put you in jail. If you're an official and you say, may I please see your identification, you're subject to going to jail. That's how crazy it's gotten. With a low IQ person, because Gavin Newsom has admitted that he has learning disabilities. Honestly, I'm all for people with learning disabilities, but not for my president. I think a president should not have learning disabilities, okay? And I know it's highly controversial to say such a horrible thing. The President of the United States, Gavin Newsom, admitted that he has learning disabilities, dyslexia, everything about him is dumb. But then he looked at the audience and
God damn.
But I'm smarter than you, or something like that. That was pretty stupid. So now on top of everything else, I call him a racist because it happened to be a black audience. I will tell you this. I think it was the worst interview I've ever seen of any human being in my life, okay? Anybody else have any questions?
Will it be necessary to use even a limited ground force to secure whatever nuclear material remains in Iran as part of that threat?
Yeah.
And secondly, have you made a decision?
You mean to go in and get it?
Yes, sir.
Why would I tell you that like that?
And secondly,
I can't stand reporters. Sir, will you attack Carg Island? Will you occupy Carg? They ask me these questions. And I don't want to be mean, but they're stupid questions. If any president answered those questions, they shouldn't be president.
and secondly, sir, do you still plan to travel to Beijing at the end of this?
I don't know. We're working on that right now. We're speaking to China. I'd love to, but because of the war, I want to be here. I have to be here, I feel. And so we've requested that we delay it a month or so.
Because that's what he do.
We have a very good relationship.
That's what Trump do.
But because of the
Well,
war,
everything on
there's no
blame.
tricks to it either. It's not like, oh, gee, I'm waiting. It's very simple. We got a war going on. I think it's important that I be here. You know? So it could be that we delay it a little bit. Not much, Peter.
When you say Cuba is next,
Cuba.
Is Cuba, whatever you do with the military there, it seems like something, will that look more like Iran or Venezuela?
Can't tell you that. I can tell you that they're talking to us. It's a failed nation. They have no money, they have no oil, they have no nothing. They have nice land. They have nice landscape, you know. It's a beautiful island. I think they have great people. You know, I know so many people from Cuba that were treated terribly, and they're over here and they became rich. They're very entrepreneurial people, very smart. I know a lot from Florida, especially. There's so many people. A friend of mine started over with nothing. He's now the largest owner of gas stations in the country and stuff. I mean, Cuba. I also know, I was just with a fantastic person who's Cuban and made a fortune in sugar, you know, Fanjul family, right? And this family wants to go back to Cuba to visit it. They haven't been back in like 50 years or something. They largely come from Cuba. And we'll see what happens. They were asking me about that. They want to go back. Not only Fanjul, a lot of Cubans have said, "Oh boy, would they love to go back." I think Cuba, I don't know, it's in its own way, for tourism and everything else. It's a beautiful island, great weather. They're not in a hurricane zone, which is nice for a change. You know, they won't be asking us for money for hurricanes every week. But I think Cuba see the end. You know, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation right now. They were for a long time. Very violent leaders. Castro was a very violent leader. His brother's a very violent leader. Extremely violent. That's how they governed. They governed with violence. But a lot of people would like to go back. Okay, one more question.
One question on fraud for Vice President Vance. Mr. Vice President, you announced a couple of weeks ago in the EEOB that the administration would be halting Medicaid payments to Minnesota until the state decided to take pervasive steps to root out fraud. Do you have an update to that specific situation? Do you think that could be a model moving forward for the task force for states that won't cooperate?
So I don't have an update there. Dr. Oz is looking to it, trying to work with the authorities in Minnesota to try to figure that situation out. But yeah, I mean, I think there are two obvious tools that we have to stop the fraud that's happening against the American people. One is that when we see evidence of fraud, we stop the payments. Pretty simple, right? We know that the American people are being defrauded. Let's try to stop the payments and ensure that whoever's making these payments is actually complying with some basic due diligence and making sure the payments are going to the right place. I think the second tool, of course, we have, as the President mentioned, is we have law enforcement options. We know that some of this fraud is just bad. Some of it's criminal. We know that people are intentionally trying to defraud the American people. It's not just in Minnesota, it's all across the country.
99% is criminal.
Yes, sir. So
Damn,
one of the
99%.
reasons why DOJ is such an important part of this is because we have to make sure that where we see criminal conduct, we actually prosecute it. And the President's talked about this a lot in the past. I don't need to repeat it, but it's worth noting that so many times when we find people engaged in really, really bad conduct, the local judge or the local grand jury tries to stop it. One of the cool things about what we're doing is we're trying to take some innovative steps to ensure that when we find criminal fraud, we can actually prosecute it all the way to the end.
Mr. President,
She wanted one question. She's over here, and you guys are over there. Where's your main camera? Is it this one? Which one is the main camera? Okay, good. Nice center. Good. I thought it was that one.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mary Margaret with Daily Wire, not CNN. We just wanted to ask about DHS, still not funded, but we reported earlier today that 80% of the primary task force that focuses on investigating terrorism is working without pay. So should that impact Democrats' decision to
The
fund
Democrats
DHS?
aren't paying. The Democrats, we have a deal. They just said we're not going to pay. We're not going to do anything, and it's terrible. The Democrats are terrible. You know, it'd be nice to get along, but for years this has been going on, not just with me. For years it's been going on. Different ideology, but also different tactics. Here we are, we're fighting big battles with a very tough enemy and winning nicely. And we're not allowed to have security in our country. It's crazy. The Democrats don't want to pay. These are bad people. These are not people that love our country, I can tell you that. They're very sick people. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, press.
Thank you.
Y'all know what it is, man. Let's drop down to another one. Y'all already know.
Thank you very much,
Trouble is
everybody. Appreciate it.
bullshit.
This is a big thing that we're doing. It's about fraud, having to do with all the fraud that's taking place.
First of all, I would like to apologize to tonight's audience and the viewers at home. We will not be airing the Steve Doocy cooking segment tonight. We apologize to Mr. Doocy, but you'll still be able to get his new book, Cooking with Crisco, for free. Instead, we have a very special show tonight, so let's welcome our guest. She's still quite humorous with a fetus in her uterus. New York Times best-selling author, publisher, contributor, captain. She's from San Francisco, but still appreciates indoor plumbing. Co-host of Outnumbered, Emily Campagno. His deltoid can deflect an asteroid. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA world champion, Tyrus. And he loves Diet Coke, but hates the woke. Choosing this insanity over Sean Hannity. Let's crank it up to 11 for President 45 and 47. The man who finally makes no at 6'2", fighting out of the red corner from Queens, New York, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
We don't want to bring any jinxes along, Tyrus. Right? But it's
at least he could have yelled 4.
This is not a good thing to have practice at.
No.
Like, you're getting really good at stopping assassinations of Donald Trump. It's great. But I want to ask you, so Kamala Harris and the president, Joe Biden, if he's still president, we don't know. They called you after you got shot at and to wish you well, to say all these nice things.
They did.
But they're the same people that moments before say you're a threat to democracy, an existential threat, worse than Hitler. Does that mean that everything they say is full of?
Well, both of the shooters, one is dead and the other one is in prison. And it was really great work, again, by Secret Service. And a woman who saw somebody running and running for the car because he was caught, and the Secret Service agent started shooting at him, didn't do any talking, said just, that's a barrel of a gun, started shooting, which was amazing. Then he saw it, and then he started shooting. And so this man is running to the car, and a woman is a woman, of course. Woman's always a woman, right?
We just found out,
No, but think about that. How smart. Who would do this? She sees somebody running, and she didn't like the way he looked. He looked very suspicious, and followed him and took the car, parked it right behind his, and started taking pictures of the license plate. Who would do that?
A Karen.
And then sent the picture to the sheriff, who's a great sheriff of Palm Beach County, and sent the pictures to the sheriff's office, and they got him in a high-speed chase down the highway.
Yeah.
But who would do that? I mean, I said, out of 1,000 incidents, would that ever happen? And they said, very rarely a thing like that. So she's very much of a heroine, right? Heroine.
Yeah. You know, it blows my mind, like how you take these events so, not lightly, but it's almost casually. The way, like, I get more angry, when my pant pocket gets caught on a doorknob. I get angrier about that than you get angry about getting shot at. It doesn't. How do you process that?
Well, number one, do I have a choice?
Yeah.
Right? What am I gonna do? Right?
Yeah.
Do we have a choice? But it's interesting. I was thinking a lot about it over the last period of time since Butler, and being president is a very dangerous job, because with a race car driver, that's a dangerous job. It's like 0.1% die. With a bull rider, I think bull riding looks pretty scary, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more than that die. With a president, what is it, 6% or 7%? It's the most dangerous profession there is. So if you want to be president, I have a lot of friends that wanted to run they're thinking about maybe not doing it. But here's the only good thing is that it's always a consequential president that gets shot at. And fortunately, so far, I've been very lucky, or something is greater than all of us.
Ooh.
Something is up there. Someone is up there, maybe watching over us.
I think he's voting for you.
Yeah. It's funny. I always thought the most dangerous job was feeding The View. But you bring up God. And you've almost been killed twice. Do you think more about your own mortality and what happens
that
after
man don't care
you go
about none of that.
on?
Yeah, not about mortality, but I do think more about God because, okay, Butler was really the greatest of all miracles. If I'm not looking over there, and I mean a full turn, exactly 90 degrees, I wouldn't be here right now, and your ratings would be a little bit lower, perhaps.
Yeah. We'd have Kilmeade there.
We have to tell the story of how we first met. The ratings over. Remember that
Yes.
1 week he just played that thing. But I do think about that because the chart. It was basically an immigration chart. We had our lowest numbers that we've ever had in immigration, and I very rarely use it. Maybe 15-20%. It's always on my left, and it's always at the end of a speech. So now I said, bring down the chart right at the very beginning, almost like the first sentence of the speech. Bring down that chart because immigration's such a big thing now with, our country being basically taken over by Venezuela and lots of other people. So I said, bring down the chart, and the chart drops down, and I go, look at those numbers, and I look over to the right, and ping, and that was not, I knew something was definitely wrong, and it was a mess. I touched, I said, that's unusual.
Remember when you showed it to me?
I showed it.
Yeah, you showed it to me. You said, I know people aren't going to believe this, so Gutfeld, take a look at my ear.
That's right. We met in at the convention.
Yeah.
And I said, who am I going to show it to? We have a lot of guys. They'll say it didn't exist. And I actually did have such confidence in him, and he's really a very special guy, talented guy, good guy, great guy. And I said, if I'm going to show it, let's do it with Gutfeld.
Yes.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
Because it happened right after.
Yeah, how did you get him to see the top of your ear?
Well, I sat in a low chair.
Okay, thank you.
But you know what? It was true. And I took the bandages off very carefully.
Yeah.
And I showed him. He said, "That's nasty."
Yes.
That was nasty. But it
I
healed
kind of
up.
wanted to touch it, but I knew I would have been tackled. And I would have enjoyed it. But it's interesting to see the response to this second attempt. Every time you're under a bigger threat, the media still blames you even more.
Yeah.
It's almost as though they don't see their own role in this. What do you make? Have you just basically accepted this as a fact?
I think so, yeah. Look, the media is extremely dishonest, extremely corrupt, actually. Look at the debate. I walked off, I said, that's debate. They said I'm the GOAT in debates because I had a lot of debates and I became president. And the GOAT means greatest of all time. He's a GOAT. But I said, what a great stage. And I walked off that stage and I thought I had the best debate. And I was very unfairly treated by the anchor. I'm not fans of those guys anymore. And his hair was better 5 years ago than it is now. Okay? That happens. That happens with the clock.
I mean, who among us?
That happens with the clock. But, they came at me on everything like crime.
Yeah.
I said, the crime is rampant. He said, crime is down. I said, crime is down? Who would think it's... Without even knowing. And I was right. The following day, DOJ announced numbers. I don't know who it was in DOJ, but somebody over there likes me. That crime is up 45%, murders up, numbers like you wouldn't even believe. And anybody would know that without even seeing charts. But it turned out to be a false attack. They attacked the bloodbath. That was referring to the auto industry. Right. You know all these things.
Yeah.
Charlottesville was totally debunked by everybody, including Laura. Laura did a whole show on it, how it's so ridiculous.
And even Snopes, which is a left-wing
That's right.
site.
They even said.
Yeah.
But all of them, and they didn't correct her once, and they corrected me everything I said practically. And I think 9 times or 11 times. And the audience was absolutely... They went crazy. And the real, I walked off, I said, that was a great debate. I loved it. You got a lot of people watch. I guess we had 75 million people watching, something like that. And you have to do well. You can't do badly. For instance, Biden didn't do so well in the previous debate because I had the 2 debates. I had one. We actually had 2 debates. You know, I had one against a man, and then they said he's not doing well. Take him out. Put in a new one. And if she doesn't do well, I wonder if they're going to take her out. Just keep putting it. Let's see if we can get it right eventually. No, but a thing like that's never happened before. It's never. You know, it's like a fighter. He knows more about fighting, but I love the fighting. We love Dana White, all those guys. Dana is great.
Well, your
right?
history in boxing is second to none.
I'm more Mike Tyson fights than anybody. Yeah. Mike is great, and they're all great. And they're, you know, amazing people, really. It's a very hard thing to be a fighter. Number one, you have to be able to take hundreds of shots to the face within a couple of rounds and enjoy going out for the 5th round.
Yes.
You know, there aren't a lot of guys. A lot of great athletes have tried to be fighters. It doesn't work out so well. Very rarely does it work out. But this was something that was a very special moment. I thought this was a tremendous debate. And when you look at it, you know, it's interesting. Now that they're reviewing it, it was all word salad from her. The first question, I said, what kind of an answer is that? But the fake news said, oh, she did well. No matter what you do, if I were Winston Churchill, he was a great debater, by the way, and an elegant debater, if I were Winston Churchill, they would say, well, he was okay, but he wasn't special tonight. That was the kind of stuff.
You were exactly the same as the previous debate. That's what, if you look at it, there was.
I think so.
Yeah, there was no difference.
I actually wanted that attitude. You know, I've had different attitudes, right? Yeah. And you never know about debate. It's a little like Mike Tyson said. He said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And there's a lot of truth to that, right?
No, yeah. And you walked in, you caught 3 before you even said hello to you.
Well, I mean, I had people telling me that I'm wrong about things where I'm totally right. I was right about just about all of that stuff, that they were correcting me. And I think my only regret is that I wanted to be elegant and I didn't want to go after the anchors. I wish I did, in a way.
Well, that's our job. We took care of them. We got
we got to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with more from the future president, Donald Trump.
You first.
Clooney. Top. I notice a lot of these guys, it's an emotional response to the fact that you're bigger, more well-known. Does that make sense?
Well, I know some of them, and like Howard, I was on Howard Stern's show as much as anybody, and he was great at that time, and then he went woke.
Yeah.
And since he's gone woke, his ratings have gone down the tubes, and he sort of went anti-Trump for a couple of reasons. But I was on his show a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, he has a best of. Did you ever see the best of Howard Stern? I don't want to promote it necessarily, but and I was there for just about all of them, the best of. We had good shows. He was good, but he's changed, and he doesn't do the ratings anymore.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't have to. He's almost finished. Kat, do you remember Howard Stern?
No, but you've been on every show. I mean, you've been on TV a lot.
A lot of shows.
Yeah. I mean, would you rule out? I'm not saying now, but would you ever rule out doing reality TV again? Like, what about hosting Love Island?
So, I had The Apprentice for 12 years.
Oh, I know.
14 seasons, but 12 years, a lot of time. They wanted to renew me for 5 years. They were all set to do it, and I didn't want to do it. I wanted to run for president. Mark Burnett, who's a great guy, and, the producer and all of the people from NBC, everybody came up to see me to talk me out of running. They said, it's not possible to win. Nobody's ever done that. I mean, and nobody ever gives up primetime show. It was a big hit. And they wanted to do a 5-year extension. I said, no, that's actually when I knew I was going to do it. And, I love doing The Apprentice. It was so successful. The big question is, did it make a difference? Would I have been president? A lot of people say they created this guy from The Apprentice. And I don't know if that's true, because they chose me because of the success.
I think it was your chemistry with Bret Michaels.
Yeah. Bret Michaels was a character. We had great characters.
Yes.
And we learned a lot about, we had Dennis Rodman was great.
Oh, he was fantastic.
And we had tremendous characters on the show. We had a lot of, everybody was helped basically by being on The Apprentice. But I just wanted to do it. I saw what was happening with the country. The country was going bad. And now what they've done with the border and the wall and the whole thing, they could have built an extra 200 miles. I built much more than I said I was going to build, and it worked. I had the Mexican government giving us 28,000 troops. We had so many Mexican troops, they had no choice. They had to. Otherwise, I said, I'm going to put tariffs on your cars that you stole from. They stole 32% of our car industry, okay, which is not, we'll get it back. Don't worry about it. But, I really felt I wanted to do it because we can make our country. The Make America Great Again is such a great MAGA, is such a great tag. And
MAGA.
I watched Biden where
The great MAGA.
he was very angry at MAGA. He said, we've got to stop MAGA. And I'm saying, it's Make America Great Again. Yeah, it sort of didn't work so well, right? Make America Great Again. And that's what we'll do. If you think of it, we have 21, I believe it's 21. They say 16, but what difference? I mean, it's a lot of people, more people than any country could sustain. 21 million people, many come out of jails and prisons, slight difference between one being a little bit more harsh. They come out of mental institutions and insane asylums. They come out of terrorist schools. They come literally out of schools, but they're terrorists. We have people coming from gangs, the worst gangs in the world, MS-13, considered the meanest gang. They cut people up. They don't want to use guns. They attacked two young 16-year-old beautiful girls walking to school. They cut them up with a knife. They didn't want to shoot them because it wasn't painful. They both died. And these people are coming out into our country. And now you look at what's happening in, like, Aurora in Colorado. Venezuelan gangs are taking over the real estate. They're becoming real estate developers. And they have...
Do they get little cards?
They have whatever they want.
Like a little real estate card?
Yeah. They have their little card is a bullet.
Yes.
Mr. President, can I ask you a question? With talking about the border, not just all the young military-age men that are coming across this country, the fentanyl that's coming across this country.
Terrible.
If you were in office, would you consider taking importation of fentanyl as a terrorist act? Because if you count it under terrorism, then our Department of Defense can get involved. We give our law enforcement a break.
Correct. Well, and you can even go further than that.
Yeah, I mean, you could send pictures of their mansions to certain individuals in Mexico.
And by the way, these are really rich people. These are the cartel people. These are really rich. Look, we can play games, and we can be nice, and we can be smart. You're never going to, I set up blue ribbon committees. Friends of mine, could I get on a committee? They didn't know the first thing about it. They don't know about El Chapo. They don't know about, these are very smart, hardened people. And, I'm setting up a blue ribbon committee with socialites from New York and California. It's ridiculous. And they don't even want to talk about it. They talk about it for 2 minutes and they start talking about society. The only way you're going to stop this is the death penalty for drug dealers. I don't know if this country is ready for it, but if you think about it, each drug dealer on average kills 500 people. On average. He or she, drug dealer, kills 5. I know so many families who have lost a son or a daughter or parents even to fentanyl. And I had a deal worked out with China, with President Xi directly, that he was going to give. China has the death penalty. I said to him, do you have a drug problem when I first met him? He looked at me like, what a stupid question.
Exactly.
He said, no drug problem. I said, well, what do you do? Death penalty, immediate death penalty. And I said, that sounds... He said, without it, I talked to him a lot about it. He said, without it, China was a drug-loaded country years ago. Other countries, much smaller, would take it over because they were all
wasted,
drugged out with the opium and the poppy, and they had a big problem.
The poppy.
But they execute drug dealers. They have absolutely no drug problem. Singapore has no drug problem, and it's not nice to talk about, but it's the only way you're going to solve the problem. You're never going to have... Now, we got it down to great numbers, the lowest numbers, but the wall helped. A lot of things helped. But in terms of getting a drug-free country, you can't have that unless you have the death penalty for the dealers.
All right, we got to take a break.
Taking it as a maybe on Love Island.
All right. Up next, media tools. Think Kamala rules. Do you... There's an objective crowd. All right. It's hard to kind of figure out what she's saying. Why doesn't anybody ever ask a follow-up question? Like, what do you mean?
Well, That should have happened in the debate.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, doesn't do interviews. You would not see her come onto the show. I can tell you right now.
We ask her now. Come on this show, Kamala. We'll have a box of wine.
She doesn't like. She doesn't like doing interviews.
Yeah.
And she's not knowledgeable about economy and various things. And I think it would be a problem. But you know what? He was pretty much gone. They said, Joe, it's over. You're getting out. And he said, I'm not getting out. You're getting out. And they were very nasty, 25th Amendment and everything else. He got out. And they put her in. And she's somehow a woman. Somehow she's doing better than he did.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine it can last because so weak on people coming in. You know, she's the one, she was the border czar.
Yeah.
She allowed 21 million people to come in, the thing we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And many of these people are the wrong people for this country. You have murderers, you have killers, you have prisoners. Prisons are being emptied out all over the world, not just in South America, and they're coming in. She allowed that. And I think eventually people are going to figure it out.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, the thing is, she's got the entire media doing PR for her. Sure. So it's like no one asks follow-up questions. No one bothers to fact-check her. Emily, do you have a question? You seem like you do.
I do. So, Mr. President, my question is about voting bloc strategy. And it's that we know there are 90 million evangelicals in this country, 40 million of whom don't vote, and 15 million of whom aren't even registered to vote. So what's our plan to harness those votes for you in November?
It's such an incredible statement question because they're great people. They're 95% for me, but they don't vote, meaning they don't vote proportionally. If they would vote, nobody could beat you. And I have total support from evangelical Christians and from other groups. I'll tell you another group that doesn't vote. Gun owners. They don't vote. The NRA endorsed me totally every time, but they endorse me totally. But you look at the number of people, I don't know what it is. They're rebellious or something. I don't know what it is. But evangelicals, if they voted, there wouldn't even be an election. You'd cancel it. If the gun owners voted, I mean, the gun owners are just a massive proportion. If they voted, but they vote like at 16% or something, if the people, because they want to take your guns away, she wants to confiscate your guns. She wants to take them away. And, you know, she's now trying to get out of it. So she had policies that she's now changed 14 policies about fracking. Yeah. She was totally against for 15 years fracking. Now, all of a sudden, a short while ago, she came out in favor of fracking. Same thing with guns. She said, no, I don't want to take your guns. I don't want to. For 20 years, she's wanted to take your guns. All of a sudden, a short while ago, she said, no, I don't want to. One thing about a politician, they always revert back to where they were at the beginning, because that's what their natural inclination is. Her father is a Marxist professor. I mean, that's the way it is. And he's currently, and I don't know what happened to the father, but we haven't seen him. I'd love to be able to talk to him. You know, Barack Hussein Obama's brother is supporting Trump. This Governor Walz, his brother and his whole family is supporting him. In fact, they want to make contributions to my campaign.
Well, to be fair, a lot of brothers are supporting President Trump.
That's true. That's true.
Lay up.
That's what we do over here.
It is funny. Waltz is a strange dude.
Oh, he's strange.
He is
he's
strange.
crazy.
Him and I are the same age. How does he look so much younger?
No, he's a strange guy.
Strange.
You know, he called up years ago. I was in the White House, and he said, my house is being surrounded by people with American flags. I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? He said, I think they're going to attack me. This was during the riots and everything else. They were MAGA people. You know, they like the American flag, all right? And they also had Trump. And I said, how do you know? There were about 15,000, He said, could you put out a word like that I'm your friend? I don't even know him, but that's the only time I ever spoke to him. And if you look back long ago, tweets, before truth, tweets, long ago, I put out a statement. He's a good man, the governor. He's on our side. I didn't know him, but I didn't want him to get hurt. And everybody put down their flags and they left. He said it was a miracle. He said it was a miracle. I didn't want him to get hurt.
Scared by the American flag.
They say he's not a nice guy. I would have had fun with that. It's called a barbecue. Go outside.
He remembers it, actually. He was a little bit nervous about things. They had one guard. He said, we have one guard at the door. It was the mansion for the state. Then he said, we have one guard at the door and you have 15,000 people out there. And I'm a little bit, I don't know, they look violent. I said, are they carrying the American flag? They're not going to be violent.
Yes.
But I put out a statement and they just went back. It was sort of a beautiful thing in a lot of ways. Beautiful.
Yeah. That's a happy ending, and the kind we like. All right, coming up, free thinkers unite to join Trump's fight.
We got another clip for you. It's video of the
From the legal stuff, it's like, yeah, you sue me, I get it, that's what you do.
Yeah.
But I'm not, like, you want to use my plane, fine. I mean, some people would not understand that.
No, I think I have been able to do that. Otherwise, I would have nobody to talk to at all. Greg, it was interesting. I endorse people, and my endorsement record is very good. But sometimes I'll endorse people that said horrible, horrible things about me. And people say, do you have any idea what he said? And I said, if I did that, I would never be able to endorse anybody. Because when I first ran, everybody was violently opposed to me. So I would never be able to endorse anybody. And I like to endorse people
terrible
if I
things.
think they're good. Honestly, you weren't so good at the beginning.
I believe we have the tape. That's right. I'm making my move, Gutfeld. Roll it.
No, but I want to bring up, this is a friend of mine has this theory. He says that your campaign is like a pirate ship. You have this eclectic band of supporters that are individuals and different, but they're a pirate ship. But the issue with the pirate ship is every now and then you get a stowaway. So you get an odd person like a Scaramucci or an Amorosa. It's like, when you have a pirate ship of all these different people, how do you have any kind of control? Or is that just the risk?
Well, like the people that you mentioned, I don't know them very well, but the people that you mentioned, they all want to come back. They all want to come back. And when you don't take them back, I don't want them back. Certain people I don't want back. When you don't take them back, they'll say anything. They make up stories.
Yeah.
They make up stories. But when you don't take people back, and they think of it as a glamorous life, I think, my whole thing, the sphere, I don't think of it. I just work really hard. We have to win this election to save our country. If we don't win this election, I really believe our country is either finished or very close to it, because we have to turn it. And if we don't turn it and turn it now, it's going to be too late to turn it later. I really believe that.
It is interesting. On their side, they have people like Lynn Cheney. And
Liz Cheney.
No,
Yes.
Liz Cheney's rough, but her older sister, Lynn Cheney, she's a monster.
No, it's Lon.
No, remember?
Lon
She's
Cheney.
chasing us with a broken beer bottle.
Lon Cheney.
Oh.
But I mean, you have Elon Musk, you have RFK Jr., you have Tulsi Gabbard. These are all really strong-willed people.
Great people.
Are you saying he has a diverse cabinet?
Yeah.
No, we have great people. A thing just happened about 10 minutes before I walked in. The Teamsters, for many, many decades, always automatically support the Democrats.
Right.
This year, they refused to do it. And they took a poll, and we got 60% in the poll in the Teamsters. And they're not going to support the Democrats this year. They're going to, I guess, remain neutral. But that was sort of a big event. Nobody's ever expected a thing like that to happen. They actually took a poll of the Teamsters, of the people, the workers, the people that really do the job, and they're good. I've had many of them work for me with the concrete stuff, the frames. They put up the frames. They drive the trucks. So they just announced they're not going to support the Democrats. They're going to remain neutral.
That individual poll is like 10-1 average from employees.
We had a tremendous advantage with the people. And I think the people that run it, Sean O'Brien, who's the top guy, he's a great guy. But I think they said, how can we support this person, meaning them?
Yeah.
But they have for decades. I think 5, 6 decades. They've never. I mean, it's been many, many years since they supported a Republican or did this.
You're seeing an interesting flip in where the Democrats used to be the party of the people.
Yeah.
And the Republicans were the country clubbers. Since you came along, it's flipped. It's really interesting, and people go, but he's a billionaire. But it's a billionaire from Queens. That doesn't count.
Well, one of the nicest things that's happened to me as a politician is that I get most of my money from people that average $61. Think of it. And that's never happened to a Republican before. It happens to Democrats, but it happened with Bernie Sanders. That would be the best example. But it's a tiny fraction of the money that I get. We get a lot of money from people. They average $61. And those people all vote. Those people, they get, we have some people that'll pay us like $25 a month every single month. They won't miss it. They're very committed. There's never been a Republican where that happened, too, where you get your money. It's called the small money. The small money is ultimately big money because there's so many people contributing. So, that's like a great honor for me.
Yeah, I'm like that. It's something I always sign up for and then forget.
Well, that's
like Paramount.
Can I please ask a question just because I'm never going to be allowed in a room with the president again?
Sure.
Are there aliens at Area 51?
I'll tell you, it's so funny because I think that might be a question that I get more than any question. It is the craziest thing. So we have that so-called area. They consider it like a sacred area. And I will say this. I don't think I'm a believer, but I've interviewed pilots that look, I like Tom Cruise, but better than Tom Cruise. The blonde crew cuts, the whole, and this, yes, sir. And they were in the Oval Office, 3 or 4 pilots. These are not people that make up stories. They said, all I know, sir, is there was a round object that was going 4 times faster than my F-22, which is a very fast plane. And it wasn't, it shouldn't have been. It was round, sir. They have seen, 4 or 5 guys I've interviewed, solid people, great pilots for the U.S. Air Force, etc. They've seen things that they cannot explain.
Follow-up question.
Also a maybe.
Follow-up question, Mr.
Maybe.
President. Follow-up. If in fact there are aliens, would you be willing to put tariffs on them to help us with the economy? They're not just going to fly down in here.
We're going to have more fun because we got questions from the audience coming up. We've got some questions from the audience. They were just submitted. Evangeline has a good one. What is something people would be surprised to learn about you?
Oh, that's a dangerous question.
What do we not know
I got a
about
call
it?
from a couple of people. Could you please be careful on this show? You're going to have a good time. We don't need scandals. We're leading in the polls. We don't need any scandals. So maybe I shouldn't answer that question.
How about this? Do you wear pajamas?
I don't.
Okay.
Do you own blue jeans?
Do you own blue jeans?
He sleeps in the suit.
I have a very old pair that I saw. I doubt I fitted it.
Because we were talking about this. I've never seen you at the beach. We see Biden all the time at the beach. Do you ever sunbathe?
I'll tell you this. I see Biden too. Somebody told him he looks great at the beach in a bathing suit. And I think it's terrible when you see a president lying on the beach on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and he's stone cold out.
Yes.
He's out.
Yes.
Who can sleep in front of cameras that are rolling?
In the heat. In the heat. You only sleep like 3 hours, right?
Well, I don't sleep much. I'd like to sleep more, but probably 4 hours, 5 hours.
Do you get a good sleep, a solid?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and nobody sleeps well. And everybody's always trying to find the answer.
Well, that's the purpose of this next election, so we can sleep well again. That's the whole. That's all. But for me, I can't wait that one day I'll be able to tell my grandchildren that the President of the United States stole my seat. That's right. And Mr. President, if you're going to sit,
honor.
Oh wow! Thank you for WrestleMania 4 and 5, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. But if you're going to sit in that chair, if you're going to do the Tyrus experience, you have to do it right because you are the people's champion, Mr. Trump.
Wow!
And on behalf of
that's a good one.
it's the man who makes all the professional ones.
Beautiful, yeah.
There you go. It's a crowd.
No, but this is the real one. This is a real deal.
I'm going to give a fake belt to the next president.
We're more used to that. That's good. Thank you, Tyrus.
You are the people's champion.
You're going to have to wear that on the golf course for safety reasons.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah. All right. Well, have you ever been fired, like in a regular job?
Well, I went to work for my father out of school, and he was a tough guy, very tough, but he liked the job I did. So I have never experienced being fired. Mm-hmm. Fired a lot of people on The Apprentice, but fired a lot of people. But No, I've never experienced it. I wouldn't like to experience it, actually.
Yeah. I was fired 3 times. So far.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Well,
you know, we had, it's true. He didn't treat me well at all.
I know. I saw him the whole time. I was like, look at this guy.
Early
He's so
on.
mean.
No, early on. And I actually met him once at Mar-a-Lago, I think. And I met you at the ballroom. They were doing a big charity. I said hello. I was very nice. But he never treated me well. And then I agreed to do an interview, and it was supposed to be just a quick. I said, look, this guy is, I can't stand the guy. They set up an interview, and I said, it'll be like for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, something quick. And they set up this whole thing. And the interview lasted for 2.5 hours. Because we got along. We had an unbelievable chemistry. And I can honestly say, I really think, because I love what he says. He says, look, maybe he's not a nice guy, but he gets everything done. Would you rather have a nice guy where the country goes to hell? But I do. I get it done. And I think I'm a nice guy, too. I like to be a nice guy. But he did this interview. So, and I'm going to take total credit for the show. Okay?
Yes.
No, credit almost equal to you guys. It was just chemistry. We got along incredibly well. And that was it. And then he did a 5-parter.
Yes.
Every night he had Trump on, and he got ratings that were through the roof. And honestly, his ratings were okay, but they weren't setting them. He got ratings that were through the roof. He was the #1 show of the week. It was the great. And you know what? It never stopped.
Yeah.
So I take full credit.
Take full credit.
We're going to run this one a few times.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America.
Thank y'all for tapping in. Thank y'all for tapping in. Y'all already know I love y'all. I see y'all tomorrow. But guess what? Make sure y'all like, subscribe, and drop a comment out of this episode, because y'all know Trump is off the chain. But thank y'all for tapping in. I see y'all tomorrow morning. 7 in the morning, we lit. 6:30, we lit. Gone.